And also, you were talking about your Catholic religious background, and I actually want to ask you
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that because I was reading your book, one of your books about China, and in one of the sections you talked
Mm.
about you going to the church in China. I don't remember where exactly. Oh, I think in Shanghai with your wife.
Yes, Sacred Heart in
Yeah,
Pudong.
because
Yes,
I
yes,
think
that's right.
maybe in Western, I don't know, in a lot of other Western
There
countries,
may be a
people,
misconception.
yeah, there's a misunderstanding. They think that we are
Really?
not we are completely not religious, or you can't hold religious activities and things like that. So there's a huge misunderstanding. You mean at my workplace? I remember I had, at least in my small office, we had two very devout Christians, and of course I have Buddhist friends. And I know quite some people who are very religious, and they attend mass on
Yes,
Sundays. Actually, I went to one.
yes,
This was like
yes,
maybe, I don't know, at least 15 years ago. For one Christmas,
yes.
someday before that, I actually decided to, I went with my coworker and to like a Sunday mass. This was in Haidian, somewhere in
Yeah,
Beijing. And it was so
yeah.
crowded. I literally had to
That's right.
squeeze in
Yeah.
between the seats. And I think like half an hour into it, I almost.
Baby, I really like this topic because for positive reasons, but also a negative thing, which I don't want to spend too much time on.
Mm,
It's very, very upsetting when people lie and cheat and it hurts other people. To me, it happened to me specifically in my life
mm,
in a couple of different things that so I'm really sensitive about this. And so one of the things that happens is, and it's so upsetting because I've been here 24 years, when you know something someone says is completely untrue, and not only that, but it's a really mean, nasty thing,
mm,
right? And this is about and this is about religion and the church in China. If you go to the United States State Department website, there's an official notice, and Pompeo did it, and Blinken's doing it now. It's an official notice that says China continues to violently oppress people practicing all faiths and religions.
no
And
way.
I read that, and it's on the official U.S. State Department website. Now let that end the political
Okay.
conversation.
Mm,
I don't want to talk about it because I hate it.
mm,
But can you imagine that?
no.
When What's the reality? In Shanghai, of course, it's one of the more international cities here. And in Shanghai, um, you've got several Christian churches,
Hmm.
several Catholic
Hmm.
churches. As you mentioned when you were speaking, one of the Christian churches that I went to, and it's like 2,000 people. That's huge. And
Mm.
and I went there and it was packed, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I believe at this point that China is more Judeo-Christian than the United States or
No
Europe
way.
anymore, right? Right. I'm to that, right? Okay. And you say, I want to talk about two things on this. Um, there's Judeo-Christianity as a base of ethics, not religion. And then there's Confucianism as the base, as the principles of ethics as well.
Hmm.
Now, we know that primarily it's China. In China, it's primarily the Confucian principles, six, I believe, the principles of Confucianism that drive people values in terms of develop your virtue,
Mm,
be a good person,
Respect your
but
elders.
also filial piety.
mm,
Respect filial, that's it, the filial piety. And that's what I want to mention, because the filial piety means family is the most important thing. And the original Judeo-Christian ethic, which began where? In Italy, right?
mm.
Rome, the Vatican, Rome, the center of the church was Rome. We're going back 2,000 years, right? At the birth of Christ. So this is a very similar set of ethics, which says that the marriage and family traditional society is the best, strongest root of society and needs to be. And the
Mm.
moment you start getting away from that, which they did in Europe and they did in the US, into this new neoliberal ideology, a society will start to decline. Now, that was the theory. But it's no longer a theory because we see it's happened, right? We
Mm.
exactly see it happening, okay? the degree to which the United States society pushing away from marriage, family, church, etc., to keep as the glue of the society. As soon as they did start pushing away from that, the society has had all kinds of problems in deteriorating and declining. But then, skipping that as well, but then they're saying, but China's an atheist country.
That's a tricky question. We can talk about that. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's China's an atheist. Well, the government is atheist. Well, the United States government is atheist too. So they call it separation of church and state.
Right.
That's that's the very definition of it. And that's fine. In other words, if we're having a business discussion, let's say, oh, baby, Jason, I got a business project and I got this idea and we're going to sell, these widgets. I think we could sell them for $10 a piece, and I think we can make a 70% profit, and let's make a business plan and discuss it. And then if any of us says, well, what religion are you? Or, well, let's pray about it. That's not business. That doesn't make sense, right? It's, wait a minute, we're discussing business. So separation of church, separation of spiritual and state, right?
You can pray at home. Yeah.
So China does that. America does that. All the governments do that. Now we know though in the Middle East, for example, like Islam, they don't do that, right? The Islam is a way of life. It's a way of decision making. That is religion is part of your decision making, right? So you can separate those two out. But that doesn't mean, as we're discussing, as you noted, that religions aren't flourishing in China
And
to practice. This is ridiculous. When our son was, I want to say last thing real quick. When our son was born, we went to the Catholic Church, one of the Catholic churches in Shanghai happened to be Sacred Heart in Pudong, where we were living. And we went to speak to Father Joe. We were discussing with Father Joe whether or not to have our child baptized at the church here in Shanghai, or whether we were going to take him back to America to do it with Grandma and Grandpa back in Arizona. We chose to do it back in Arizona. But the point is, it was no big deal. It was, baptisms and marriages and all the church activities that you do here in China, the same as same as anywhere outside of China. That's the point. And they try and tell you that's not true, and that really angers me. That makes me very angry.
no,
Hello.